Hey, deserving listeners, the Ultimatum reunion. Let's watch.
Worked this out with Mal. Mal's who I chose. Mal's who I want to see things through with. It's Mal.
So where are you now?
Happily broken up.
Happily broken up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mal and Yoli, although they got engaged at the end of the season, I wonder how many months it's been since then. But either way, sounds like they're not together anymore.
Things were turning in that direction.
2 weeks.
Maybe for you, not necessarily for me, but...
Okay, so I don't know if you caught that, but the host asked how long after the engagement did it take to break up, and Yoli's saying 2 weeks, and for Mal is saying maybe longer than that or something. So it sounds like, according to context clues, that Yoli is upset that Mal left Yoli. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sure.
Do you remember going on vacation and then you got a one-way home and telling me you were not planning on staying, you were moving out? That was within 2 weeks.
Of us getting back?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, okay.
Okay, well, either way, I'm guessing that if we had all the information, we would understand where Yoli is coming from, but also understand where Mal is coming from, that they had a big fight at some point, and it was maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks or something, and then they weren't sure that they were done, and then there was some off and on again kind of stuff or questions, and then the definitive end, at least for Mal, was maybe a little later. It's not uncommon to have that kind of thing, but for Yoli, I guess emotionally it might feel that way, that looking back, the narrative, even though if we went back, say, 3 weeks or 4 weeks after the show and we asked Yoli, are you broken up? Yoli would say, like, well, I don't know, it's pretty bad right now or something. But then when it ended up ending, Yoli looks back at the narrative and is like, you know what, I bet you anything Mal was done a lot earlier than that. And that people will often do that for good reasons or for accurate reasons and inaccurate reasons. When it's accurate, sometimes it's helpful because when someone finally decides to tell you that they're done, it can be helpful to know that they had been thinking about it for a long time, that it wasn't just this impulse that they threw away a 5-year relationship because they woke up that morning and thought that it was inconvenient to be with you. That could be very, very hurtful, right? And can really screw with your perception of yourself and others and relationships. So sometimes it's good to investigate it. And if you are breaking up with someone, it's your responsibility to actually walk them through your thinking process. It's also your responsibility, if you're breaking up, to do it in a timely fashion because, and there's no time span really here, but you shouldn't, one, just break up willy-nilly, unless you really feel like you have to. But you also shouldn't wait 10 years to break up with someone when you knew definitely you were going to break up with them, years prior anyway. So, or it's your responsibility to get therapy so that you can face whatever defenses you have that are, preventing you from actually taking action when you know the right thing to do. It's harming everyone when you don't take action. When Tom didn't break up with Ariana earlier, then obviously there's a lot of harm to everyone, particularly Ariana. Anyway, so there's that. But so sometimes it's good to say, I bet you if you're Yoli, I bet you anything Mal was mostly done or maybe even done a lot earlier. And it just took a while for it to really settle in. On the other hand, some people will frame it erroneously that they get dumped and they're like, you know what, they never loved me, and I bet you anything they were cheating on me the whole time, and it feels that way to people. And I think it's also a convenient story to tell oneself because the alternative for some people might be, so wait, we had a good relationship and me and my partner were connected and we were in love with each other. And then push came to shove and there were conflicts and my partner slowly fell out of love with me. I think for some people, they just want a more black and white answer. And I think it's easier to just frame it as they were never in love with me. I was never in love with them. It was a total sham the entire time. And sometimes it is, but it usually isn't. Anyway, so maybe we'll get some detail on that for them.
We can see throughout the ultimatum that your history of being honest doesn't track. So it wasn't 2 weeks after being back.
Okay.
So is Mal referring to that Yoli and Xander had a connection? Is that what, or am I forgetting something? Did Yoli do something?
You were DMing me, telling me, don't worry about it with Xander. I love you. And you know what you're choosing. Unprovoked, because I didn't ask for that reassurance. Clearly, that was not the case.
Okay, so it sounds like I was at least in the ballpark. Mal indicated that she watched the season or some of the episodes or something. And yeah, I mean, I could see two situations. I could see Mal having a non-distorted point of view here that Yoli did deceive, but we did see pretty overt conversations between Yoli and Mal about Xander. And I think I even, in a reaction video, commended Mal in particular, but by extension Yoli as well, because Yoli was upfront, at least from what we saw. And I think Mal might be referring to, yes, what happened, but it painted it in a way that made Yoli look better than she was or something. So I'll take Mal's word for that, I guess. I want to take Mal's word for it because Mal has demonstrated some pretty high level of attachment security and differentiation. So I tend to trust Mal. And so even though Yoli was fairly upfront, maybe not completely with Mal, so there's that. But then when Mal actually watches it, it's one thing to be told something, and that level of concern or trigger would be that level, but to watch it. And I've talked about this before, that if you are ever cheated on and you're trying to recover from the infidelity with your partner, you want to be careful as to how much you demand or ask for information, because the more information that you're given by the cheater about the specifics of what happened, it recreates the vision in your mind. A poignant scene is in Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, right? Tom Cruise is obsessed and really thinking about his wife being together with this Navy guy or something. And he wasn't there, but it was described to him where he's inserting visuals, and they depict it pretty well in that movie. So could Mal just be recovering from recently just watching, because those scenes were intense, and no matter how healthy or differentiated you are, there's no way that wouldn't hurt deeply and make you feel disgusted or skeevy or angry or something. So it could be that. Could be Mal just feeling hurt and harmed, and emphasizing that Yoli didn't emphasize it enough.
So what was it that you saw that was triggering?
Let me finish. And then at the party, when you come to me and you ask me and I trust you, and I'm just like, my partner wants to go clear things up, have closure talks, whatever the hell it is, go and do that. I don't care what you guys talk about, do what you got to do. I'm thinking this is a closure talk. Maybe there's... Yeah,
I do remember that. And yeah, Mal would have a beef with that for sure, because it wasn't... I think Yoli wanted it to be closure talk. I wouldn't be surprised if Yoli was like, Yoli and Xander seem to talk like that. They seem to be like, I don't want to be attracted to this other person outside of our main relationship, but it sure is compelling. And so I think when Yoli was with Mal, even hooked up to a lie detector test, Yoli might actually literally believe that she wants closure. But then when she's actually with Xander, there's that obsessiveness and that new relationship energy comes pouring out. It's like, I can't say goodbye. We heard that at the engagement times episode, that the two of them were just like, I can't, what is that? I can't quit you. Yeah, that's a compelling feeling, right? And a real struggle. Should Yoli have been more upfront with Mal about that? Mal could make that argument for sure, because it is deceptive. But that's a tough thing to do in the moment if you're Yoli.
Some questions about some things. How are you doing? Not, hey, at a party, playing in my face, saying, hey, I love you, I miss you so much, holding hands, doing all the things. That's wild as fuck. Hella disrespectful. I would have never did you like that.
Okay, good. And Mal's being upfront. When Mal complains and brings things up, I'm not confused. When Lexi does, I am confused. So I feel like sometimes I wonder, am I just confused with humans in general? And so I'm like, thank you, Mal, for presenting something that it's like, okay, I get it, right? So for Yoli, she agreed. She's like, yes. So yeah, that's good.
I do agree. I did not watching it back, I was like, oh, that's uncomfortable.
That's degrading. I deserve better than that.
You do.
So
Good. I don't know why I always expect defensiveness in these shows. Sometimes I wonder if the other shows actually require the cast members to become defensive, but that was a very healthy exchange. It happens. And that's my impression of Yoli, that she is mature enough and healthy enough to be able to admit that. The one scene that confused me about Yoli was when Yoli was on Lexi's side going after Vanessa at that dinner, and so it makes me wonder: am I off about that whole thing about Lexi? I don't. Maybe I am. Maybe that's evidence that I am off, because if Yoli was on Lexi's side, maybe I was off.
it's less about watching her with another person. The tough part about it is I reflect on the whole fucking thing, and I'm like, oh, I've known this person for 5 years, in close circle to me, and now I'm looking at our entire relationship through a completely different lens, and you feel like a dangerous stranger to me. And that is hurtful. That really sucks.
Yeah, I'll take Mal's word for it, but it didn't look that way to me from the edit, that Yoli is dangerous. I think Yoli, we didn't get a lot of data from Yoli and her personality and her history, but there was something complicated going on there that I think Mal was picking up on before they even went on the show. Mal was talking about, I really want to be with Yoli. I don't want to get married now. And I'm not saying I don't want to ever get married. Maybe I do in the future. And my main question is, I don't know if Yoli loves me for me and wants to marry me for me, or wants to marry just anyone. So until I have the answer to that question, I don't want to get married. So, it's a pretty complicated point of view. And I remember thinking at the time, like, I wonder what that's about. And so that seemingly kind of played out, right? Because Yoli was confused and easily falling in love. Not easily, but it did happen. I don't know if it's easy, but what Mal was worried about happened. So I think Yoli has, as everyone would, have some pretty complicated schemas and traumas in history and reactivity to closeness and to marriage. And so that was playing itself out, and there was conflict between the two of them, apparently. We didn't hear a lot about it, but the more they talk in the reunion, it sounds like it was more severe than they were letting on. And then Yoli goes on the show and is hoping, I think, at least consciously, that Mal will realize that Yoli is a catch, that Mal will, because I think that's the appeal of the show. It's just like, hey, if you don't want to commit with me, how about you try someone else out and find out how great I am? I mean, I think that's the hope. Or I think more maliciously, you're going to see me with someone else and it's going to hurt your feelings. If you're truly giving someone an ultimatum, those have to be the motivations, right? Because that would, right? So I think what happened was Yoli and Xander just have a chemistry, and you could see it, right? And sometimes it just happens, right? And I think Xander and Yoli both have a very healthy side to them, right? Particularly Xander. And that feeling of mutual respect, and I think Xander having this contrast between Vanessa and Yoli, it felt very intoxicating and very attractive for Yoli, I think, as well. It's like, oh, there's someone that is maybe more attentive to me and makes me feel special in a way that maybe Mal doesn't do all the time. I think Mal has seemingly a particular way of making people feel special, but maybe not the way Xander does. I can't really put it into words, but they showed a lot of scenes between Xander and Yoli that I was like, wow, that seems like something's really happening there. And then we really see what was happening when the engagement thing is just like, whoa, this is like one of the most dramatic love scenes that I've seen, If you tried to write a script like that, it would be cheesy, but it was so powerful. Whether you think it's a good idea or not, that sadness that they had saying goodbye, and that decision of just like, what do I do here? And Xander actually chose Yoli, and Yoli said, I choose Mal, but I want to be with you. And it was difficult. Anyway, so I think that they legit fell in love. I think for Yoli, as I was saying earlier, was very confused. If you've ever been in those shoes, more typically it would be something like you are with someone for 4 years and you're drifting apart kind of, you're having some conflicts, and you have a crush on a friend or someone at work, and it's just platonic and you have long conversations. Maybe you have a couple drinks and it's a little flirty, but nothing untoward. And you're obsessing, you're texting with this friend and you're thinking about him all the time. And it suddenly dawns on you like, wait, am I in love? Like if you get in a situation like that, that's hard. What do you do? How do you know? Is it just a crush? Is it real? Does this mean that this other person's the one? But all relationships eventually fade in terms of that intensity. Is there something wrong with me? I mean, people come to me to work on those things. It's complex. So I think Yoli was going through that, and it looked like just a normal case of that. It doesn't mean that every action is moral or right or caring to everyone involved, but the way that they handled it, the group, it wasn't like Xander and Yoli went behind the corner and held hands. They did it right there. You could argue that they should have gone behind closed doors. Mal is saying they shouldn't have held hands at all, right? But I think it was just so. That's the whole idea of the show, right? They're trying things on. So I understand Mal's pain, and I said this before. Like I can't believe how healthy Mal is being about it. Mal isn't being distant. Mal isn't saying I don't care. I'm tough. Mal is just like, this hurts. This sucks. But I'm not going to control you. So if we're going to be together, you have to see this thing through. So, I don't want you to hang out with Xander, but go ahead and do it because this has to play itself out. And I guess we'll see what happens. And Mal's approach to it was quite superior, really. Now, I'm wondering if Mal's approach was based on deception or misunderstanding or something, but it didn't look that way because it seemed pretty overt in terms of what was being shown to Mal and what Mal was being told, but maybe it was the edit. I don't know. So my top hypothesis right now is that Mal is particularly triggered having watched it. And good on Yoli for saying, yeah, that was uncomfortable. Now, I would hope Yoli would say, Mal, I'm so sorry. Let me tell you why. It's not an excuse, but I was totally in love with you. I wanted to be with you. And with this experiment, which I didn't think would happen, I had a lot of feelings for Xander. I still don't really know what that was because we never explored that afterwards, but it was intense. And I didn't want to have those feelings, really. And then especially when you wanted to be with me, I was like, yes, this is the whole reason. But there was this part of me that I felt like it was wrong for me to just act like my feelings for Xander weren't there. And so, if I wasn't human, if I was a computer, I just would have deleted the Xander files, but I couldn't. And I'm sorry for that. And I'm the one that dragged you on the show, and, it's all my fault. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe there's something sort of wrong with me. I don't know. But I was confused, and I was trying to be honest, and I felt like I was pretty honest with you, but apparently I wasn't completely honest. And I'm just so sorry that you had to watch that. I couldn't watch it. I was cringing the whole time. It was awful. And that must have been really painful to watch. And I guess if I did refrain from telling the whole story, I'm also sorry about that. I guess I was in denial or trying to save face. I don't know, something like that. And I think Yoli is capable of that.
Because I had your back so hard, and all you did was made a complete fool of me. I look like an ass on television.
Just chime in. I don't think Mal looked like an ass at all. I thought Mal looked like a very mature, loving, honest, strong human with normal feelings, and someone who, was strong enough and confident enough to handle that situation. That's the way it looked to me.
I don't see where I lied in that. It's not comfortable. I'm not proud of it. I kind of look like I'm an ad for polyamory. I'm not trying to be.
The great part about you is that you inadvertently showed everybody on TV how great of a partner I am and how great of a mother I will be.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. I wonder also if Mal and Yoli, that what they're beefing over in this moment is just everything in the relationship, all the hurt and anger Because even when you amicably break up, which it didn't look like it was, there's a lot of pain and a lot of anger that starts to take hold that you wouldn't necessarily entertain when you're trying to be with them, right? Now it can just run free. And there's no intimacy or repair necessarily post-breakup to mitigate some of that. So I wonder if Mal is just still in that zone of like, she has very mixed feelings about Yoli overall, and she's focusing on these things, but really it's the whole relationship and the whole end of the relationship that Mal is hurt and upset about.
And are you still friends now? Or are you?
I mean, sure, I thought we were, yeah. I don't lie to my friends, but yes, I could imagine she's family to me, and sometimes there are cousins that you can't stand very much. And right now, in this moment, and after watching some of that, you are definitely that cousin.
Yeah, that's a really great way of thinking about it and voicing it. And the fact that Yoli isn't getting defensive in this moment is a testament to her differentiation as well. So, Mal's saying, look, you're family, I love you, and you're a friend, best friend maybe, and boy, am I hurt and angry at you right now. And it's just a really great way of looking at it. Very, very gray area, very human, very normal, and reassuring, right? I'm angry at you, and I'm hurt by you, and we're forever because we're family. So I'm not saying I want you out of my life, but I'm hurt and angry at you. It's, that's life. It's harder to do that, right? It's easy to say, especially on these shows, to be like, I never want to see you again. And, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But that isn't usually what people are going for, what they really want deep down.
In lovey-dovey, and like, that's going to be tough. I was like, I don't want to hurt Mal again.
Watching you guys be lovey-dovey is not hard. It's easy to watch people be in love. That's a beautiful thing. Like, whatever you guys shared is absolutely palpable. And I even found myself like, that is very cute. Like, I think it's cute. For what we saw and how palpable it was, you almost deserve to try.
So I was wondering, now that we heard that Yoli and Mal aren't together, if Yoli and Xander did try, that would be the expectation, right? It would be weird if they didn't, because of how, unless they both ended up with other people or one of them did, and so they're like, hey, you want to try? Well, I'm actually with someone else. But it would be unusual for people to have that amount of new relationship energy. And when given a chance to actually try out the relationship soon after feeling those feelings, to not entertain it would be strange. But, it's a choice that people make. I'm saying it's strange because my observation of humans, and as being a human, is that new relationship energy feeling is a powerful force that will circumvent a lot of other priorities. So did they try out?
You did try, right?
I mean, outside in like the wild.
They did. You couldn't
What do you
wait
mean
to
by
bring
that?
that up.
You tried in the
You
wild?
could not wait to bring that up.
Well, I would love to know about that.
Okay, so it sounds like they did, and Mal didn't know about it. And maybe Yoli would say, well, yeah, we did kind of, but, I didn't want to tell you, Mal, because I didn't want to hurt you, and we weren't talking together at the time. But you'd think Yoli would give Mal a heads up prior to the reunion, but maybe Yoli and Xander didn't know it would be talked about.
If we're being really honest, like, we stayed in communication some, and we saw each other while we were at Coachella.
What happened?
Nothing. Like literally, we just listened to music.
Right, we saw Megan Thee Stallion.
Were you guys excited to see each other?
Yeah, I mean, it was like nervous, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, shit,
I mean, yeah, because I knew.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like they entertained anything. Or was it a kind of a date at Coachella, and then they very quickly realized that there wasn't chemistry post-show or something, and they thought, oh, well, or I don't know. It doesn't sound like they gave it a whirl, though.
You during that specific time in my life, like,
And this was months later.
right. So
Yeah.
it was
Oh, wow.
months later. Yeah.
A while.
Okay, so it sounds like Xander had lost that love and feeling, and maybe Yoli had it a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of writing that story. But so that's interesting. Months after. So I wonder how long. So they often shoot the show a year, they conclude a year before they publish it. So it kind of sounds like there's been a long time span, and then there was a long time span. So it is unusual that if they did break up very quickly, Yoli and Mal, it is unusual that they didn't meet up. So I wonder what that is. Do they live in the same town? They didn't highlight. It looked like they were in San Diego, but I'm not sure. Do they all live in? They never went into that. So maybe there was a geography problem there, or maybe Xander, soon after leaving the show, started dating someone else. I don't know.
A few weeks in, I did find out that her and Yoli were planning a trip to Hawaii. It was
To Hawaii?
jarring. Yeah.
Was I going to Hawaii?
Can you confirm that, Xander?
We had mentioned that you were going to try and come out at some point.
Looks okay. So Yoli, I don't know if I showed all the clips, but Yoli was going after Vanessa. Is that your big reveal? In this sarcastic tone. And I didn't know how to take that because it was outing them. But then when we hear Vanessa's story here, and it's tempered, it's not like Vanessa's yelling at them, just saying, well, when we were in Hawaii, I found out that you and Yoli were planning a trip to Hawaii. Also, for Vanessa and Xander, they were trying things out, and so they, for Vanessa, you can imagine that she would be concerned about that, right? Worried. So it was a highlight for her. Then she asks Xander, can you confirm? And then Xander is beginning to confirm, and then Yoli's like, oh. And we'll hear what Yoli says, but kind of shady, because if it's one thing to go after Vanessa for just saying a general blanket statement like, well, you did try it out. It's another thing that when Vanessa says something like, you were planning a trip to Hawaii, and then Yoli's like, what are you talking about? You would think if it is what's happening, if you're Yoli, you would remember at least maybe a version of that story and be like, well, okay, maybe a little bit. But also, what's the problem? They were Yoli and Mal were broken up. And what's wrong with Xander, and why is Yoli trying to hide it? I don't understand. Unless Yoli is shady in general, or I don't know. Maybe literally Yoli forgot that she was planning a trip to Hawaii with Xander, or it wasn't, or I don't know. Let's watch.
Oh, okay.
Because we had talked about it.
Yeah, okay.
You didn't know about the Hawaii trip, did you?
No.
Yeah, and then the host asked a pretty great question there, that because I was forgetting about that connection. Maybe, yeah. So at least we don't know, but we have a potential motive for Yoli, I guess, to lie. But what's the problem? They broke up, according to Yoli, 2 weeks after. Maybe that's, I don't know. But so was Yoli shady? Why would you be shady about that? Why wouldn't you tell Mal? You don't have to tell Mal, but if it comes up, you could say, well, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming Mal dated other people as well. So yeah, afterwards, maybe they had fights about it, or Yoli is ashamed of having feelings for someone else and is in denial. I don't know. I don't understand. Yeah, well, let's see if there's more data. This reunion isn't very long, actually. So, it's like 3/5 done at this point, and I'm thinking, I don't think we're going to get a lot of information. So, because they haven't even gone into, we've only talked about 2 relationships thus far. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.